Men love idealistically. Women love opportunistically. When they marry a man, they marry a lifestyle. So they're looking for the guy who can provide that lifestyle. And if they fall in love with that guy later on, then so much the better.
Does anybody disagree with that?
There's a new article that was off of The Hill. This has been making the rounds on Twitter recently. It says, most young men are single, most young women are not. Okay?
I saw that.
Huh.
More than 60% of young men are single, nearly twice the rate of unattached young women, signaling a larger breakdown in the social, romantic, and sexual life of the American male. Men in their 20s are more likely than women in their 20s to be romantically uninvolved, sexually dormant, friendless, and lonely. They stand at the vanguard of an epidemic of declining marriage, sexuality, and relationships that afflicts the young America. We're in a crisis of connection, said Niobe Way. Disconnection from ourselves and disconnection from each other, and it's getting worse. In a worst case scenario, the young man, social disconnection can have tragic consequences. Okay, they go through the incel thing here.
What was that first stat?
Okay, women now collect 60% of bachelor's degrees. The beginning of it was more than 60% of young men are single, nearly twice the rate of unattached young women.
So more women that are younger in relationships and fewer men are in relationships. Remember what you just said before? Why do you think that is? The thing is, getting to a relationship for an attractive woman is more of a passive thing. Whereas for a man, it is more like, we have to compete with other men.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, I'm very passive about it. For sure.
You don't go out and just go to bars and just hit on men reciprocally. Hey, are you gonna take me out on a date? You don't do that?
No.
Okay, got it. No.
As of 2022, Pew Research Center found that 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults are single, 34% women, and a whopping 63% of men. Not surprisingly, the decline in relationship marches astride with a decline in sex. The share of sexually active Americans stands at a 30-year low. Around 30% of young men, you just said this, reported in 2019 that they'd had no sex in the past year. About 20% of young women did, compared to 20% of young women, right? So only half of single men are actively seeking relationships, even casual dates. According to Pew, that figure is declining. So what I thought was funny here is that this is the best. Here's the kicker. That's a shot. Here's a chaser. Young men are watching a lot of social media. They're watching a lot of porn, yada, yada. But here's the thing. Even seasoned researchers struggle to fully account for the relationship gap between young women and young men.
That's insane.
If single young men outnumber single young women nearly 2 to 1, then who are all the young women dating?
Who is it, guys? It's funny, all the women said older men at the same time.
That was insane.
And somehow this Pew researcher can't figure this out.
Seasoned researchers struggle to figure this out.
For women, the most right swipes you get on dating apps. For men, the most right swipes you get on dating apps. There is 23 to 25 is the age range where most of the right swipes are. Okay, so now the second thing. Men, they get the most right swipes at what age? What do you think?
I think for women, probably older. I'm going to go with 33 to 50.
Nice. That's Katie.
Yeah, I'm going to say 30 and up.
Okay.
35 but not like old.
35 to 50?
I would say like 33 to 45. Yeah.
I'll go with the same that the girls are saying. The same thing.
35 to 50. It is 38 to 44. That is the age range. So as men, we have to become a thing. Does that make sense?
Men must become.
Men must become. Like, I am the sum of my physique, my personality, the money I make, the connections I make. All these things come together to make up who I am. For some men, it's their personality leads. For other men, it's their fucking Lamborghini.
It is a little problematic to me, a little bit. There could be like a problem with this. If you're with your girl or whatever, and then she starts getting older, like, are you just gonna ditch her and then just go to this girl because like she's not this girl anymore? Or what? How does that work? That's what girls think, but guys don't think that way, Katie. I don't think that way. It's like girls,
So the math really doesn't play that out. The math.
So how does that work?
The math doesn't really play that out. 78% of divorces are initiated by women. So it's generally not that's what happens.
My theory is that men fall in love and it's like forever.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Men don't fall in love until after you leave them.
I don't think so.
That you any of that shit
show?
until like 6 months later.
Well,
Okay.
I heard a metaphor once that it's like guys fall in love like a train, and once it gets going, it's incredibly hard to stop.
Sure.
Well,
I agree with- I
men
do.
love idealistically. Women love opportunistically. When they marry a man, they marry a lifestyle. So they're looking for the guy who can provide that lifestyle. And if they fall in love with that guy later on, then so much the better.
Does anybody disagree with that?
Guys fall in love because it's like they think love should matter for love's sake. It's not unconditional, but not dependent upon their performance, right? So that's why we have the marriage vows, in sickness and in health, rich or poor, till death do us part, forsaking all others. If you look at the traditional marriage vows, that's a contract, man. That's a compromise between two mating strategies right there, which is like, I know you're looking for a guy who's bigger and better than me, but like, we're going to make this promise here that I'm going to stick with you, you're going to stick with me, we're going to have babies together, and we're going to be invested in this family. And so this is a formalization of that compromise between the two of them. Men love idealistically, women love opportunistically, or women will not allow themselves to emotionally invest in a guy unless there's some criteria met. He's got to meet these.
Why do you think
these
that is,
bullet
Rolo?
point chicks.
Why do you think girls do that, Rolo?
Well, because you're interested in long-term security. You have to, because again, your sexuality is a depreciating asset, but also you're the vulnerable sex. So there's a higher cost for reproductive cost for you. So you will, if you think about this, I always talk about like 18 to 28 is the quote unquote hope phase, right? The party. I said it nicely, right?
The exploration phase.
Yes.
Women call it the phase.
Yeah, so-
I'm not calling it that.
So 29 to 31, 32, right about there, that's what I call the epiphany phase. That's
yeah.
when I go, okay, I got to cash out of the sexual marketplace right now. The lights are coming on at the club. I better find a guy to go the distance with. But if you think about, like, women have that 10-year span between 18 and 28 years old, the rest of their lives as a depreciating asset as far as the sexual market value is concerned, not personal worth, sexual market value. Women need that insurance. They need emotional insurance. They need, financial insurance. There's a lot of things that women need for their long-term security. We teach women today to go get it themselves, right? Go get a college degree. Go get your business together. Get the bag. Whatever it is that you got to go on OnlyFans, whatever. Get all of that stuff for yourself because you can't trust guys to do that. And by and large, right now, I can understand why. But there was the idea of you have 10 years to sort of like this 10-year window in a lifespan that's going to be like 90 years or so. So the next, going on until you die of old age or whatever, idealistically, you need more in terms of long-term security than you have 10 years to acquire that and consolidate on that long-term security. That's why.
So from an evolutionary standpoint, when a man and a woman have children together, the unconditional love from the woman is reserved for
The kids.
the kids.
Yeah, she will always choose her kids.
Okay, so you guys understand that, right? That is a
My
feature.
babies come first.
That is a feature.
Always.
That is a feature, not a bug of evolutionary psychology. If it wasn't that way, when we were going through different survival scenarios throughout our anthropological record, we would have serious issues. Like if women were consistently choosing the man over the child, we would have extinct. It would have been the Neanderthals would be sitting here now, and not us. Okay, so that's what would happen. So that means conditional love is reserved for the husband. And this is, a lot of women find this very offensive when I say this, but the reality situation is love for a man is conditional. It is. He'll lose his job. He'll get overweight. These weird things will happen. And she'll always say, we grew apart. You didn't grow apart. What happened is he did not maintain his end of the bargain. And so because of that, he got out. That, again, 78%, it's not men leaving women. It is 78% of divorces are initiated by women. And once a man is divorced and he's in his 40s or 50s, he's 9 times as likely to commit suicide. That's essentially what happens, which is where we get to this ultimate problem and why Sapphire is or the Rhino or CH3 is packed every night because of that phenomenon, right? In other countries, like Middle Eastern countries, you see there's not this manifestation of fans, pornography, Instagram, and strip clubs. And so these men strap dynamite to their chest. Like you have this incredible, polygynous society where you have a few men up at the top that have multiple wives and several men at the bottom that have no chance. So you see this in India, you see this in some Middle Eastern countries where these men are just not worthy of sex with anyone. And so because they're left behind, the idea of having surplus
Yellow
men,
pearl.
guys, the percentage of men throughout history that have had children. Take a guess.
Percentage of men in the world?
Percentage of men throughout history that have had children.
children.
70%.
Cool. Katie? Right. By the way, just so you know, there's been about 110 billion humans that have ever lived on planet.
What's your first reaction? Just
to be as
straight to the mind.
80%.
80%? What do you think?
I think
Me?
it's probably
Percentage
different
of men throughout history that have had children. Okay. Missy, percentage of men that have had children throughout history.
Well, sorry, what was the question again?
The percentage.
A little lit right now.
Right. There's been about 55 million men who have ever lived. The percentage of them that have ever had children.
That have, okay, I would say like 70, 80.
55 billion. Sorry, 70, 80. What do you think, Kirsten?
I want to say the same, like 70, 80.
Cool. It's about 25% of men who've ever lived.
That have had children.
That have had children.
Then how
Yes.
do we
Nowadays, it's so rare to even meet a man that doesn't have kids.
Because 300,000 years, again, what's happened recently since like the 1600s, or since the Catholic Church and Islam and some other things, some other institutions that encourage monogamy. Monogamy allows for low status men to have at least one wife. When you live in a polygynous situation, you get a few men up at the top that have sex with multiple partners and several men at the bottom that have none. Genghis Khan, Muhammad the Bloodthirsty, people like that have harems. Buddha, what's his first
Antonio
name?
Cromartie.
Antonio Cromartie,
there you
yes,
go.
exactly. That have multiple children. Today, you're correct. The percentage of men that have had children is much higher than 25%. But throughout history, we've had this thing called surplus men, and we're getting back to the surplus men.
Yeah.
We got to an egalitarian point where we had huge swaths of men and women that were having like paired up. Like the 1950s, the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, we saw strict monogamy during those periods because it was a function of survival. You would have one wife, you would stay with her forever, and you guys would try to have 14 kids because 2 or 3 of them would die in childbirth, and your wife might die in childbirth as well. It's that low because a lot of these men weren't worthy. Like a woman wouldn't pick them.
So you can also factor in warfare.
Yeah. So these men at the bottom of the rungs that were younger were disposable as far as warfare and as far as labor was concerned. And then later on, the men at the top would have a harem, and they would be surrounded by other men that were at the top, and they would protect.
It's like the king has all his
Right.
mistresses.
Very similar to elephant, bull, seals. Very similar to gorillas.
Yeah, it's polygamy.